Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on the video. If you didn't know, this is part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1, go click on it in the description. Okay, bye.
What we're gonna do for this, we're just gonna like go around, because it's 2 movies, so we're just gonna go around and do them as if they were individual picks.
Do you guys want me to go first so that I can give
you gotta
that's
you gotta
usually
pitch
what we do.
the movie to us.
We do usually do like an introduction from the person.
So, I had the boys both watch part 1 and 2, Breaking Dawn from the Twilight series.
We're the boys.
So what?
That's us. We're Homelander.
We're the boys.
Yeah, the boys. And it was the ending of this series. They had never seen them all before. I actually really enjoy the last 2 movies, probably more than I think I did when they came out. Now, as an adult, I feel like I like them more. Because the stakes feel more real to me, I suppose. But anyway, so we'll talk about Breaking Dawn Part 1. This is the movie where Bella and Edward finally get married. That's kind of what it would have been leading up to this whole time. And when Bella is now convinced that she is going to be turned into a vampire, which is what she's been wanting, they go on their honeymoon. They have sex for the first time. And wham, bam, thank you, man. She's pregnant like a day later. And so... he has like Superman sperm that like cuts through her, and and she gets pregnant and hilarity ensues. Thoughts?
Boy, does it. Well, talk to me about what you like about this movie.
Okay,
what you
so
dislike about this movie.
I like this one because their wedding is absolutely beautiful. I mean, like, you can say what you want about these movies. Their wedding is gorgeous. Every detail is gorgeous. The earthy, ethereal setting, the dress that she wears, the shoes that she wears, her hair, her makeup, his suit. And then like afterwards they have like this whole reception like in their like in the middle of the woods in, Washington, which is gorgeous. Anyway, sorry. And they play the music. It's, I don't know. These are the things that, like, when I was watching them, when I was, like, 21, I was like, oh, my God, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. But I really enjoyed that. I also like them going on their honeymoon because for much of the movie, they're kind of contained to being in Forks. And at least in this movie, they kind of did something different and they were somewhere else. And it was not so much about, like, outside factors. It was kind of just about Bella and Edward and where their relationship was going. And then when she was pregnant, the stakes were real that she was going to die. There was nothing that Edward could do to stop her from dying, which is kind of like he was kind of the safety net in all the other movies. So I appreciated that at least. Again, I felt stakes were real. And then by the end of the movie, she's getting turned into a vampire. At least you hope that she's getting turned into a vampire because she does die giving birth to their demon spawn. What?
No, sorry. I'm laughing about not this movie, the next movie.
Oh.
Anyway,
but Jumbo Joe, what did you think of this one?
It's funny that you say like the stakes are real. I guess there's like a framing in my mind of like, oh, she might not survive. It's like, I don't know. I know that this is called Breaking Dawn Part 1. And that's just an unfortunate consequence of, this is in pop culture. I kind of forgot about the beginning of this movie with the wedding. I guess I don't have just taking it like chronologically, I didn't have a big issue with that. I guess I agree. That was kind of nice. I don't have an issue. The wedding speeches by their friends are really awkward. I think that was just funny. I really start to take an issue with this movie when they try to have sex.
Why?
I fucking agree.
Okay,
Excuse me, why?
Okay, so I'm not like an expert on sex. And that's
Anyways,
would you say you're not a sexpert?
Yeah. And you guys definitely know. Yeah, fucking go for it, man.
We know we do sex, so we know sex. That's what. Yeah. Okay.
But even myself, this is a little. It's like. So they try to have sex, and she gets like bruised and he breaks the headboard by accident because he's so fucking absurdly strong and he can't control his strength, which is dumb. You're not like breaking every door down that you try to open. You can probably control yourself a little bit, but it's like, and again, this is where I talk about like, you know, I don't know a lot about sex, and you guys probably do, but I can think of a lot of sex things you could do which pose absolutely no risk for Bella in this scenario. Like, he's too strong, he's gonna like crush her or like hurt her, but like there are things that they could have done.
Bear in mind, bear in mind, this is both of their first time.
How about
and
also
normally, Jeremy, I'm just saying, for instance, normally when it is your first time, you're not doing all those other things. You're just trying to bang one out.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna blow her back out on losing her virginity. Like, he wasn't gonna be behind her.
She wasn't gonna
no, but it's like if you're okay, but like if you're behind her, I still get like, oh, there's maybe a danger because he might like.
She wasn't gonna like.
Jackhammer?
She wasn't gonna like. Oh, okay. She wasn't gonna like reverse cowgirl him for her first time. That's a little not super.
Anything I could think of where he would be touching her, or it wouldn't be touching her all that much, I feel like is a lot for the first time. But I guess you could plan for that.
But like, I feel like as a woman, when you imagine your first time, you imagine missionary, and that is what they do, and that is why he has a hard time. Because if you're thinking about the intimacy of the whole thing, missionary is the most intimate way to do it, you know?
Speaking of having a hard time, I'm sorry, just because it was right there. You know what somebody
but it's
out
just
to
like
me?
they don't even for a second in the movie consider at all that there's other things they could do, and I was like, okay, guys.
But I think the implication is that they don't really watch porn. He's 104 years old.
He's had a lot of time to think about how he wants this to go down.
But I'm just saying, like, he's old-fashioned. She's a virgin. She's only 18 and has never been with anybody else, you know, sexually in that way, or at least that's the implication. You're not that explorative your first time. I'm sorry.
I gotta give the movie props though, because somebody pointed out to me, how the hell would Edward Cullen get hard? And I thought about that for a while. It's like, there's no blood in there.
He would always be hard.
Yeah, that was it. They came up.
He would always be hard.
They came up
like
with a goddamn explanation. And I gotta give them credit because I was really struggling with that one little detail of how the hell would Edward Cullen get hard? And then Brittany hit me with, well, he's made out of rocks, like the Thing. And I'm like, that makes sense. That fucking checks out. I will say, and we're going into the territory of when Jeremy and I talk about Twilight versus when you talk about Twilight. When Twilight happened, we were in totally different parts of our lives. And Jeremy and I were in middle school. And when this movie came out, we were finishing up. And I remember hearing about this goddamn sex scene all the fucking time.
That's nuts, because I didn't.
Well,
I don't know who you hung out. I guess we went to different middle schools.
I don't know. This was a popular topic of conversation that Edward like broke the headboard and how intense it was, and that was like why these girls were going to see this movie. So seeing it as an adult, I knew it wasn't gonna be, you know, anything, but I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, but one of like the behind the scenes things, I guess, or one of the commentaries of it is that because Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson were actually dating at the time, apparently the scene as they...
I didn't even know that.
Yes. Apparently the scene as they filmed it was very like hot and heavy and very intense, but it had to be like incredibly cut down because it's a PG-13, you know, made for tweens movie. So...
Give me the R-rated Twilight cut.
I would have...
Honestly,
watch the fuck out of that. I mean, some people would argue that that's what 50 Shades of Grey is supposed to be. I will not get into that because it's not. But yeah. Anyway.
It's a weird stance to take, in my opinion.
Jeremy, I didn't mean to cut you off if you had any more points, but
about the sex?
Well, about the movie, or I can jump in here and just throw
the fact that she immediately gets pregnant, I guess there's supernatural stuff going on, and fucking fine.
Super sperm.
It's like it's funny to me how the way that movies condition you, I guess, because she eats a piece of chicken and then she like looks at the chicken and it looks gross, and she throws up.
Okay,
and I'm like,
do you guys not understand that aversion to poultry is a very common thing for women who are newly pregnant?
yeah, but I'm saying but the fact that she throws up
The
and
next day.
And morning sickness.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
And I'm saying that sometimes people throw up when they're not pregnant, but I'm very conditioned by movies that if a female character throws up and they weren't drinking the night before, I'm like, oh, they're probably pregnant. I know that those are things, and I'm saying yes, they were doing that on purpose. I just think that it's funny that I noticed it, because those could have just been things, they don't necessarily, in real life those things might happen unrelated to pregnancy.
I gotta throw out the most ridiculous one though, which is Bella realizing that she is pregnant.
She's like,
and looking in the mirror
she looks
at
exactly
her
the same. That was
at
so
her
funny.
completely flat goddamn stomach. I'm
Did you
looking
guys
for it right
watch
now.
You're looking for the Robert Pattinson interview where he says that?
No, I'm looking for the scene.
Oh, because there's an
There's an
interview with
interview?
Robert Pattinson after the movie is released, and he's just like laughing. He goes, "It's absolutely ridiculous. She's looking at her completely flat stomach and thinking that she looks pregnant." And
I give Kirsten Bell a lot of shit because I don't
Kristen
whatever.
Stewart.
Oh, you know who I meant.
Okay.
Oh, I know I didn't. I really thought you were just going to talk about someone else for a bit and bring it back.
I give her a lot of shit, but she's not a bad looking girl minus the fact that she can't smile, right? What the fuck, man? I have it up right here. I didn't have the TV out today. Sorry, guys. But I have it up right here. She is like a fucking toothpick in this scene. She looks exactly the goddamn same. And maybe the implication is she feels it. The only thing I can think of is if the day after them having sex, she feels the baby kicking in her stomach.
I think that
Fucking
was
wild.
more of what it was supposed to be. I don't think she was supposed to necessarily look pregnant. I think it was more supposed to be that she felt pregnant. So she was looking in the mirror, recognizing the fact that her body to her looked and felt different.
Fair, and I can make that jump, and I'll also throw in, because you guys got to talk about the wedding. I think the wedding is nice. It's not enough for me to be like, this is great. Just because I don't watch movies. Looking, unless it's like a really nice one, but I would have to be invested in both characters. I think more than I am with Edward and Bella at this point. But I did think the wedding was nice.
We've gotten through so many of the movies.
Yeah, we're at the second to last one,
and
we're
I'm
not
still
invested.
I'm still not totally attached to them, and on top of that, I just find Anna Kendrick so goddamn annoying, and she is
In this movie or in general?
in all of these movies,
Okay.
but also in life now.
I think that's why I have a hard time with her in anything other that she does, because I think it's one of those things where I just fucking hated her in these movies so much that I can't get past it in anything else that she's in.
I'll throw out there though that I love the guy that plays the dad.
Carlisle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, Charlie.
No,
Charlie.
Charlie. I think he does a great job. I think he's very human. So I'll give this points for that.
Charlie is
the man who plays-
Charlie is the straight man of the movies.
The man who plays Carlisle, though,
Peter Facinelli.
they just make him look like such a specific villain in the first. We're not talking about the first movie. He looks like a fucking Resident Evil villain in the first movie, and it's so funny. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. You said Carlisle, and I immediately thought of it.
To me, though, the wedding was nice and probably the most interesting thing that happened in this movie to me. Crazy Rich Asians definitely has me spoiled on weddings, though. That was like the movie wedding, and I guess it's not fair to compare them, but yeah, you can still compare them.
I would rather have the Twilight wedding than the Crazy Rich Asians wedding.
I also have a bigger issue, I think, that most people do, that Edward keeps going to fucking Florida. There's no way that Edward Cullen could go to Florida and avoid sunlight all the time.
Yeah, I think they kind of just I think by now, at least in the movies, I don't know how the books did anything, but they really don't seem to care about that.
Although
I think
good
that they
intention-
implied I think in the book, if I'm remembering correctly, I apologize for cutting you off, but I just wanted to go off of that. I think in the book they implied that he was like doing something during the daytime, like working or like working from home or some sort of like something during the daytime so that he wasn't outside. And that's kind of like how they got around that. I don't exactly remember what it was though. But it wasn't like it was total. I mean, again, book to movie is going to miss small details like that.
You know, and unfortunately I haven't read the book, so I can only go off of what I see here. And I was going to give them good attention to detail because when they have him outside later, they have him sparkling when they're like going for running and shit. I'm like, that's good. But it bothers me that then they sent him to Florida. You know, in addition, it's slow. And then the wedding is really the only spot where we get full on character interactions really in this whole goddamn series to this point, where you get the three of the main characters that you are there to see actually interacting with each other all at the same time happens kind of at the beginning of this movie, you know, and beyond that. And then they throw Bella into this coma, which, you know, I wanted to see them be, you know, together working off of each other. And again, we don't get that. We always get her with just one person or those two people working, you know, talking to each other. It would have been nice to see them, the three together, you know, and I think the stakes felt low to me, probably because the main character that I've been following this whole time is MIA for most of the movie. And, you know, what
are you talking about right
What?
now?
Well, Bella is MIA for most of the movie because she's sick.
She's not MIA. She's in the movie.
Yeah,
but
I don't know what
she's-
you mean by that.
She's like comatose for like most of it, isn't she?
I don't think
No.
comatose is the right
Well,
word.
then I didn't notice that.
She
I think
dies
you're just thinking about the
at
Kristen
end.
Stewart doesn't
Yeah, but
really.
isn't she like laid up in bed for like...
No.
I think you're thinking of the fact that Kristen Stewart doesn't emote a lot when you call her comatose.
All right, well, okay, so most of the movie is them on the honeymoon, and then she gets sick, right? And then you're just waiting
No.
for her. Yeah.
No.
Folks, we watched these movies some time ago.
Well, this should impress upon you. This one didn't stick
Most
with
of
me
the
too
movie,
much,
she's
folks.
pregnant and at the Cullen house.
Oh, right. And then, but then she looks like old and scary.
She looks like she's dying.
Old is not the right word.
Yeah, she looks like she's dying.
I feel like she took a back seat. I guess that's just me. All right. Jeremy,
I
you have to
didn't
cut
care
a
for the
bunch of
back at
silence.
the Colin house either. I think that just the baby stuff was like stupid to me. Because it's the thing of like she's immediately pregnant and she knows she's pregnant and the baby like and you know I get that is like the natural endpoint for the drama is children, I guess, but it just felt really like silly and literally rushed. We're not talking about that movie anymore because they have the baby in like a month. and I get that there's something supernatural going on, but I don't know, I didn't really like care for a lot of that aspect of the movie when they're arguing about whether or not they should keep the baby.
Because you know they're going to.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't really thinking of it like that, but I just wasn't that. I don't know.
Yeah, this one wasn't my favorite one.
I agree.
But I will give them cliffhanger at the end. Good way to go. That was the way to end this one.
And then we could talk about the second one now.
Yeah,
Or
so
the last one, or the
last one.
fifth one.
Breaking Dawn Part 2. No, this would be the fifth one. So Breaking Dawn Part 2 starts where Breaking Dawn Part 1 left off, just, you know, for sake of, you know, continuity. Bella is now a vampire. So that's, again, what this whole series has kind of been leading up to. And not only is she a vampire, but she also has a kid. Her and Edward have had a child. Bella at this point has not met the child yet, so she has no idea. And nobody really knows what Bella is going to be like as a vampire. So that's kind of where the movie starts. And I'm not going to explain past that because the movie does sort of like shift at one point in time. And we'll get into that when you guys kind of tell me what you think about the beginning, at least.
Sure. So the beginning is... I'm trying to remember.
Jacob.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about that specifically?
That
well,
and,
no,
and,
they're
and
just.
otherwise.
I'm just giving you cues of the first
Yeah,
act.
because like I think that the beginning is very important because obviously it picks up where if Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2 were one thing, that would have been one major climax. You know what I mean? Is her turning into a vampire and Jacob and Renesmee and all that stuff. So
I forgot the name was Renesmee.
Yeah, I do.
Didn't you know her, Renesmee? Renesmee?
Yeah.
Yes, we
I
knew
don't
Renesmee.
I don't like the damn name. Period. I don't. How do they pick it in the movie too?
It's the combination of their mother's names. So like
Oh.
Bella's mom's name is Renee, and Edward's mom's name is Esme. Renesmee. It's not the best name in the world, but the sentiment is nice.
See, but nobody in the movie explained that. That's
No, they
fine.
did. They said that out loud.
Maybe
They
they
did.
did.
Nope, they did.
When they were talking about names, they're like, if it's a boy, I want to name it EJ, Edward Jacob. And if it's a girl,
I want to name it. I
Renesmee
vividly
after
remember
both
that,
of our
but I
mothers.
guess I just missed that part.
they say after that, if it's a girl, Renesmee after
But
our
they
mothers.
kind of dismiss it right away because they think that they like hear that it, like Edward thinks he hears that it's a boy, so they're kind of like focused on the fact that it is a boy and then it ends up being a girl.
But they do say that in the movie.
Yeah, because Edward can hear the baby's thoughts while it's in the womb.
So the beginning of this movie. So what is the point you want to cut me off then? I'm guessing when they start preparing for war.
Yeah, like what leads them to preparing for war,
Okay.
like that whole thing.
I said I didn't really care for part 1, and it's then unfair for me to like. I guess because they're one unit when they were a book, right? And it kind of feels unfair to give this movie like a bad hand for being like, well, we have to play into the baby stuff now because like I didn't care about the baby stuff in the first one, but like being dealt that hand, I think it did a decent job. Except for the Jacob thing, like that's not I think like it's pretty well known that that's kind of weird.
I gotta weigh in on that because I was really, I knew that was coming. And I was really hoping that it was something that I was just missing as an outsider, and that the movie had figured out a way to make it not creepy, but it just skeeves me out.
It's less creepy than
But I think that the movie is recognizing, and the book recognizes that it is creepy. It's not. They're not trying to say it's not creepy. They are saying it is creepy. I mean, Bella has a full blown freak out.
Sure.
And Edward's not happy about it either.
I think they also have some dialogue that they try to be like, hey, he doesn't want to fuck the baby, all right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it gives it, that is not the impression that you get when people that make fun of this movie try to talk about that with. So like, I'll give it credit for like, he loves this baby as like maybe an older brother would.
Platonically.
Like, okay. Fine, but it's still fucking weird.
Yeah, I mean, they do sort of mention, I mean, not sort of mention, they do mention, and again, it is brought up in the book, but the way that it's brought up in the movie is the same exact way that it's brought up in the book, in which Jacob is explaining, not when he's talking about Renesmee, but when he's talking about one of the other wolves in the pack and how the he imprinted on, he was playing with like a toddler basically, and they were like, that's weird, and he was like, yeah, it is weird. He goes, but the thing is, you don't get to choose who you imprint on.
Right.
It's like a gravitational pull is what he explains it as. He's like, you cannot live without them, sort of deal. He goes, and you are what they need you to be at any point in time in their life, whether that be a caretaker, a brother, somebody, a protector, or a lover, a husband, etc.
Which he doesn't say.
He does say that.
He does? I don't remember
he
him
does say
saying
that.
that.
It happens in Eclipse though, I believe. That he
Okay.
does say that. He does say
I
all
mean,
of
he doesn't
that.
say that about Renesmee
No,
specifically.
I-
He repeats the part about being a caretaker and a brother.
Say, he's like, it's not
and
like
he does
that.
not repeat
Yeah.
the part about being a lover and a husband when he talks about
No,
this
it
literal
is,
baby.
it is implied though, especially at the end of the movie. But sure, continue.
I get all of that, and I get that there's reasoning in the movie. I'm just saying, as a viewer and as some, it is still a fiction, and somebody sat down and wrote all these rules and decided to make Jacob be with a baby. And to me, it's creepy. I don't, and I get,
But
and
it's not
I'm
meant
willing
to
to
be
look.
romantic. Like, you're romanticizing it, and it's not meant to be romantic.
I'm willing to look past it, but the movie did not do a good enough job of it being like, oh, here's an older brother, and something about it, it doesn't play for me, and I can recognize that stuff's there. And maybe part of it is the pop culture surrounding, but I can't get past it. It's just bizarre to me. But we can roll with that because it doesn't dwell as long. I just feel like
when you're watching or reading stories like this, you're buying into the rules of their world, and if that is a rule of their world, I understand like not being cool with it. I'm not condoning grooming or like pedophilia in any way.
Well, and that's part of my problem too. Is that
like, it just seemed because like there is something to be said about like these are the rules set up, and if we take these to their extremes to explore them as concepts, like I think that it has the potential to be really interesting. I don't think that the series was quite set up to
do that,
to do it a way that I think would have been proper about something like this,
and almost like props to them for trying. And I'm just saying it didn't work for me, and part of it is because of how aware, and we're in a different time than we were when this movie even came out, with how aware society is about grooming and what a like disturbing phenomenon it is. And I'm aware of that, so watching it now, it doesn't sit with me. Maybe it did a couple years ago when it was kind of swept under the rug a little more. But for something like that, you need like a Tolkien level, like understanding of your rules and how to portray them. And I just don't think that anybody can do it, but I will give them credit that it happens and it's over, and then we move on. And that's not the like point of the movie,
And I think that the other like reasoning for that is because they had to explain away why Jacob would no longer be in love with Bella.
And that makes sense.
It worked as like a plot device to take away the pressure of the love triangle, because the implication then was, okay, this is where it starts to get weird in my opinion, but the implication was that his attraction to Bella was never really about Bella. It was about Bella's child, right, which would then be her eggs, that she has inside of her, which is weird. And I will Destiny. Go with that one. But at the end of it, I don't have a problem with it. I understand why they needed to do that, because they needed to steer away from there being a love triangle. They needed to give Jacob a purpose, because if Bella just got pregnant, got married, got pregnant, had a kid, and it had nothing to do with Jacob, then guess what? Your wolf involvement is no longer there. They don't care anymore. Like it's gone. So they needed something to tie the wolves in to, and to give the Cullen family some sort of protection, because technically they did break the treaty. That was another thing. So like It was really like a pivotal plot device to have Jacob and Renesmee like be connected in this way.
And I get that. Personally, I wish it was something else, but that is what it is, But when you move into the middle half of this movie,
wait, could I talk still about this front
Jared,
half? Just two things. I think my favorite line in this movie has to be,
"You name my daughter after a Loch Ness monster."
No, that's pretty good though. This could be so stupid. After they have sex as vampires. When she's like, man, we never get tired or anything. Why would we ever do anything but this? Was like, it's aimed at, it's like, because you said it's aimed at tweens, and like, I can't describe why that's so funny to me, of how fucking like stupid that line is in ways of like, I don't know.
Jeremy, I don't understand what you're trying to get at.
I just think it's a dumb line.
Okay.
I just think it's a dumb line. I thought it was funny.
Well, yeah, and then he makes the comment that Rosalie and Emmett were disappeared for like 10 years.
And
the implication is that they were just fucking for 10 years straight.
It's so weird. It's so dumb to me. It really like made me laugh. I don't know. And second, I really like Seth. I don't know why. I just enjoyed it. He's just like a kid, and I really enjoyed him. Okay, well, I can see
Well,
that
that's
these
good.
things I'm saying are not.
I forgot
just wanted to
which
talk
one
positively
Seth
about
was.
this
Oh,
movie.
good.
Uh,
I like Seth too. He's cute.
I got
didn't-
some
I-
positives.
The thing, if we talked about this movie sooner, I would have had a specific line that endeared me to Seth that made me think like that I liked him as a character and I thought he was fun. But I don't know, it's been a bit.
Yeah,
But I
it's been a
remember
bit,
enjoying
It's been a bit
him.
for us too. We watched it like mid-October.
I got some positives for you though.
I remember enjoying his energy in a sense. I don't know. Anyway, we talk about
The middle of this movie is cool. Them preparing to fight is cool. It reminds
it's a
me.
shame.
I like seeing
Yeah,
all of,
it is.
I like seeing all of the different vampires and their different like abilities and sort of
Yeah.
the contrast between the Volturi army that they're trying to build and how they're creating it out of like fear and, you know, like propaganda of like, oh, you have to be against the Cullens because if you're not, then you know, you don't care about vampires and our rules and our lifestyle. Whereas the Cullens were just trying to get enough people to be like, okay, listen, like, we don't need to listen to you fucking ancient people, like, especially because you're just trying to come for this family for no reason.
I enjoyed them going to the different vampires and picking them up. I thought that was cool. It reminded me, and this is going to sound like an insult, but I promise it's a compliment. It reminded me of the funner parts of Wolverine Origins or X-Men The Last Stand, which are movies that I don't like either of those movies. But the parts of those movies that I like that I think work are when they're hunting down X-Men and finding different X-Men to be in it, and you just see them in their their powers and shit. That's always been fun to me. So to see that here, that was really cool. And it gets you hyped for what's coming. And I think that was all very well done and well directed. I dug that. I really
I'll
did.
agree. I mean, to something I said in Eclipse, it's like a shame that the climax to this had to be another big fight scene because it's like
It's not cut out for that.
it's just when I think about like a romance series like this, I don't really necessarily want it to go there, but it sucks that I think that was the more fulfilling part of these two movies was trying to build to that.
I got things to say about that ending.
And
too.
also, I just enjoyed some of the characters they brought in. If I could just take another aside to talk about, I don't remember their names at all.
Yeah,
The,
they
like,
all have like crazy weird names.
the like
too.
real vampire.
Yeah,
the real
like
vampires.
Vladimir, and I don't remember what the other one's name is. Yeah.
Fucking love those guys.
Yeah.
They were just like bored, so they sat in like a castle and did nothing for like 100 years. Fucking
More
love
than that. I think it was like 1,000 years.
some good energy.
Fucking love that. That's so good, man. I wish we had more vampires like that in this story.
And then, like,
Instead
even
of
when they
angsty
came in and
teens.
joined the Coven, I guess you could call it, they even just, like, sat on the roof and just watched everyone. They're like, we're not even going to fucking participate. We just want to see what's going to happen. I thought
Yeah,
that
they're
was
like
funny.
shitty too. They're
Yeah.
like
Remy Malek.
they talk about like they're like, yeah, we don't believe in your cause. We just fucking hate the Volturi.
Yeah.
Like we were top dogs and now we're not. We just like, yeah, fuck those guys.
Yeah.
I wish we had more like weird vampires like that
Yeah,
instead of
that'd be
angsty
cool.
teens.
That
But I
guy-
guess
the-
it's just like that's a different movie.
The
you
one
know?
guy I think either is Mickey or looks exactly like Mickey from Shameless, too. I don't recall if it is him.
I don't remember who played.
Anyway.
I know the character. I don't
Yeah.
remember who plays him or really what he looks like.
I enjoyed that too. Like, I like seeing all the other vampires and just like the differences in their personalities and how they're living, and because it's obvious knowledge that the Cullens and the Cullen family and even the cousins are all vegetarians, as they call it, meaning that they only eat animals, they don't eat humans. But then you have a lot of other vampires coming in that do still feed on humans, and and it's like you're meant to like not like them as much because they do that, but again, it's like the nature of the beast. It's like that's what they're supposed to do. That's how they're made. You don't get mad at a lion for eating a gazelle. So it's just I like another one of those things that I just found interesting when she started throwing them all together, like how the dynamic was a little different.
Also, I enjoy to what I said before about like when Jacob imprints on Renesmee taking these rules established and to their like extremes and stretching them to see like that kind of whatever the fuck I said before. I enjoy that exploration of the idea of what was it called? The child, the
Oh, the Eternal Children.
The Eternal Children. Yeah, that's interesting to me. Like they're children forever, and they're extremely powerful and dangerous because of that. And I think that is a much better way to expand on these rules in like a extreme way to see how what I was saying before of like an attempt that a different type of movie might do for the Jacob imprinting on Renesmee type thing. I think that was a much better example of that.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think there's some decent world building there that isn't there with the other movies, frankly, because the other movies are a lot of, all right, this is what this is, and this is what this is, and this is what this is, and let's move really quickly through that because you don't really care. In this movie, it's, okay, this character lives in this world, and he's fleshed out, and this is how they exist, and you can see how that is. And I appreciate that. I think that was the heart of the whole movie, was going, over all of the other plot lines, was just getting these people together and taking a look at the world itself and the scale that it was on. That works for me. That was really good.
Let's talk about the fight scene because you guys seem to have some issues.
Yeah, I'm really
with it.
disappointed.
Okay, you go.
All right.
I want you to talk. I'm sorry. I want you to talk and give all your negativeness and say what you want to say, and then I want to shut it down. But go ahead.
Sure.
The movie spends the whole second act and the beginning of the third act prepping you for this fight, which I'll also say we didn't need. It was nice to like see it for a second, but we didn't need it, and it would have been stronger if they didn't do that. Maybe they could have gotten together and just talked to them, because that was more the nature of what Twilight kind of was. My issue with the fight is not that it happens. I thought the fight happening and breaking out, that was cool, and it was much more well done than I actually thought it was going to be. There's a really cool part where the earth kind of splits open and the camera comes out of the crevice, and it does this like cool, like it goes around on like a 360, or it makes a circle, and you see all the different characters. Well, the 360 is wrong because it's not spinning on an axis, and you see all the characters doing different stuff, and it's really cool. And you see them use their different powers. It's very imaginative and well thought out. And then it's a fucking dream sequence for, I know technically they explain away what it is, but it didn't goddamn happen. And to me, it's like you built up this thing for so fucking long, the whole fucking movie. And then it happens, and it's working for you. And you could have committed to that. Who the fuck cares what the book says? Because I know the fight is not in the book. And then to like tell me, no, that didn't happen. It's like, that's like one of my number one pet peeves. Like, don't give me something that you've been building to and then say, yeah, dream sequence. Sorry. Because then why did you show it to me? It just, that pisses me off so much. It really like irks me. I was so disappointed in that. I was really ready to like, right there, I was like, this is the good one, And then they did that. And that bugs me. I was very, very upset by that.
I didn't know beforehand that doesn't happen in the books. It's just like, it's interesting to me to try to put myself in the mind of like a teenage girl in, what year did this come out? I thought you might have just known.
2011?
It just is fun to me to try to put myself in the mind of a teenage girl in 2011, having read the books and then seeing this, and like
2012.
Yeah,
So
I just think that's.
I was like 21 going on 22 when this movie came out.
I think I don't know. It's just like interesting to me that they would have chosen to do something like that. So the fight scene starts off. They immediately kill Carlisle, and like. It hasn't come up ever, but I do actually kind of like Carlisle.
Yeah.
And I think he's the perfect amount of weird at the beginning of the series. And I don't know, I like his shtick. I think he's kind of like he's like the father, and I think he's kind of got like a welcoming presence. After you do away with the fact that he's like a vampire and he's coming off as kind of weird, and he looks like a Resident Evil villain.
It's neutral, chaotic, and lawful, right? Those are the three when you do D&D. So
Yes.
He's the lawful good, and I think that's why. Why? What? Why would you?
What?
I wouldn't consider him neutral good. He's
No,
definitely
no, I
lawful
wasn't.
good.
I was not saying no.
Oh, I
was
thought you were like
just-
making a face at my.
No, no, that was nothing.
Yeah. No, so like he's like the lawful good. So I feel like when you're putting on a spectrum of like the vampire world, Carlisle's all the way on the good side, and then
Right.
you have the Volturi all the way on the other side. So you like Carlisle because he is the epitome of what it means to be like a vampire who you can like chill with.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make is like they do. I think he comes off really well at the beginning because he looks kind of weird and he's a bit creepy. But once you get into the Cullen family, he is kind of like a warming presence, and I do like him. I think he's actually done rather well. It's never come up. I just like never relevant before, and he's the first head to roll in this fight scene, and that like shocked me. I remember actually thinking like. I was like upset because I didn't know how this ending was at all. I was like, I really was like, oh fuck, not Carlisle. He's like one of the only ones I actually would have cared about dying because I like him. And yeah, the fight scene is well done, and I just like, So what does happen in the book? Can I ask?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna like Oliver, did you have something else to say about the fight scene before I kind of like break it down?
Well, just like what Jeremy was saying, like I was invested to see what was going to happen with each character. And, imagine if at the end of the Avengers, Tony didn't really die. And it was, it's like you build, and I know it's not the same thing because that's an action movie, but you build me up to have these expectations. And then the resolution of the movie is the fight, and then that doesn't happen. So like I'm sitting there being worried about Edward and being worried about Carlisle, who is now dead, and you just faked me out.
It took me a while to figure out exactly how I felt about the like twist part of this ending because it's cheap, and I see what you're saying. I think it is like cheap to just be like, oh ho ho, just kidding.
Number one pet peeve. There's no exceptions.
But it's also like it makes a lot of sense and it's like well set up, and I think that I'm okay with it. I've come down that I'm okay with it.
Is it well set up?
It only uses rules we know about. We know we use Alice's foresight. That's her name?
Yes, Alice.
We use Alice's foresight, and we use Michael Sheen's ability to read minds. And, like, that is decently well set up, and I think that it's an interesting, like, character thing that he just wants to kill the Cullens.
It's a 10-minute detour in
and
the
then
movie at the end.
And then, and then it's like, it's an interesting character thing that once he finds out he's going to die, he's like, oh shit. This was the thing I would say to people when I was talking about it to other people, because I want to talk about it to you guys, is they're like, I'm going to literally kill this child. And then he finds out that he'll die, and he's like, oh shit, I'm out. We're cool though, right? We're all cool. I changed my mind. Goodbye. I think that's kind of, it's funny in not a good way, but I think it's like I get like that's his character, and it's weird. It's weird to me that they are supposed to be on like, they're like, we're okay with the Volturi now. There's no conflict now. We just talked them out of it, and that's weird.
Well, that was the end I was expecting from the movie.
But I don't fully mind the 10-minute detour. It's almost like fan fiction of like, here's how the final fight would have been. And it's like, I think that it was fun to watch. But as I said, it's not really the conclusion that I think people want out of Twilight.
And though the conclusion that I think people were looking for was them to talk to Michael Sheen, and then that was that. And I think, to me, just watching the movie, you have rules on if you're going to do a dream sequence, and one of them is don't exceed like 1 to 2 minutes, unless it's unless that dream is going to be important in ways that like the movie has time to go back and look at. When you take me on this whole last act bender of a dream sequence and then tell me it was fake, it's like, well, trim that fucking time off. Fucking show me that in flashes. God damn.
I think I just hit a point with Twilight that like I'm just having fun with what the movie's given me, and I enjoyed that we got to have a fight scene that I found to be fun, and I think the actual solution to the conflict was, as I said, well set up within the rules of the universe that we know, and it makes sense. And it didn't. I think it doesn't bother me that much. I think I don't really care. Yeah, no, I'm into it. The only part that's weird to me is that the Volturi get to talk about murdering a child and then walk away being like, all right, we're all cool now. Let's just go our separate ways. And you can go now. I'm okay with it. I'm kind of I feel like you expected me to come down really negative from
No, I
something
knew
you said
Oliver
before.
would, so
Okay.
I was just waiting for him.
But I'm okay with it.
Okay, all right, I appreciate that. So, if you guys are good, I'm gonna shut this down right now. So, let me take you back, my loyal viewers and listeners, to a simpler time in cinema, and that was the year 2012 when Breaking Dawn Part 2 had come out. I don't know if these boys can recollect as much as I can, but back in that day, in my day, you actually had to go to the movies at midnight in order to be one of the first people to see your movie.
That was the
nuts.
summer of Avengers, Dark Knight Rises, and Amazing Spider-Man 1. I was at midnight showings for all three
There
of
you
those
go.
movies.
It's
So-
fucking nuts to me that they just do showings at 8 p.m. the day before now.
Yeah. So you actually had to go at midnight, and there was no such thing as reserving your seat. You had to go there and wait online and pray to God that you could sit somewhere that you could stand being in for 2 hours while you're watching a movie, because you would get there super early. I was in the theater that it was fully packed with diehard Twihards, including myself. I was so excited to see the final installment of this movie. Again, when you go to the movie having read the entire book already, knowing the intricacies of what's going to happen, you're basically just putting the words onto the screen, it leaves very little for surprise. And I will hold this twist in my perception of things to be very, very positive, because and it's one of those, like, and I don't mean to make like a geography joke. You had to be there. You literally had to be in the theater when it happened to understand what the fuck energy that scene in that movie brought.
I fucking wish I could have been
Oh,
there. You have
Jeremy?
no idea.
No, you got me there.
That's what I'm
because-
talking about. Like,
Because
to be a tween in
Yeah.
2012.
okay, so
Which I guess I was,
think
but that's not the
about
point.
at the end, and like
We're
here's I can
on
only
about different things, you and I.
I can only attribute it to things that I know we've all seen and that have been so big in pop culture. But think about the end of Infinity War, when you're watching everybody get dusted, and in the back of your mind you're like, okay, I know they're really not going to stay dead, because they would have no movie if they did. Yeah, seriously, you're getting mad at
You're
literally
using
the
another
same
movie though
thing.
that I left, and everybody here can attest to this. I left Infinity War angry, and I didn't like that ending.
I'm just
until we
saying.
got a year's worth of build, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. And then they earned an ending there, because that didn't not happen.
But what I'm trying to say is, just because you know it's not going to be that way doesn't make your enjoyment of watching it any less satisfactory. You know, you can enjoy it knowing that that's not the ultimate ending. So what I'm trying to get at here is, watching this in the theater, being some of the first people who have seen the movie, just like when we went and saw Infinity War and Endgame at midnight, and not only having it happen, but having everybody there already have read these books, everyone, and are all expecting one specific thing to happen, and then you flip that bitch on its head and you rip fucking Carlisle's head off. Oh my God, the energy in the room was so, I mean, like, you could cut that with your pinky toe. That's how tense it was. People were freaking out. Girls were screaming in the theater because, let me finish, because it was so out of left field. Now, to watch the whole thing, you knew it wasn't real. You knew.
No, I
I
didn't.
didn't. I actually
you
did.
didn't
No,
know.
I
Neither
did.
of
I
us
did.
knew that it
I did
wasn't
not
real.
know that it wasn't
Okay.
real.
I just
Absolutely
knew that
no
there was a
way.
fight at the end of the movie.
Okay. So
I didn't know anything.
nobody knew what the fuck was going on. We thought that movie was going to end. This franchise that we had read and seen at midnight every night, waited for hours to go to. We thought that it was going to end with casualties that did not happen in the book. And that was fucking wild. But the relief that was felt when you realize it was a vision, it wasn't a dream, it was a vision. When you realize that it was a vision and it wasn't real, but it could have been, it's not a dream because a dream doesn't necessarily imply that it could have been real. The vision that Alice has was an alternative reality given the path that Arrow was on. That is what it was. If he had chosen to kill Renesmee or to, start war between the two, that is what would have happened. So it wasn't a dream. It wasn't like...
But it is something
was
that
going
doesn't
to
happen in the main timeline of the movie.
In the main timeline of the movie?
Yeah, it's
What are you
something that
saying?
doesn't happen in the reality of the Twilight series
so here,
that you've showed up to
I
see.
I have cited my source. The answer is on page 738 of Breaking Dawn.
Oh my god.
Fourth paragraph down. Arrow stared into my eyes for a long, tense moment. I had no idea what he was searching for or what he found. But after he had measured me for that moment, something in his face changed. A faint shift in the set of his mouth and eyes, and I knew that Arrow had made his decision. Why? Because it's only from Bella's perspective. So you cannot say that this is something that would have never happened and therefore was gratuitous, because we don't actually know that, because it's not Alice's perspective until it's in the movie. We don't know what's going on in Alice's brain in the book. We are only
Narratively-
getting Bella is our narrator in the book, so you only get Bella's perspective.
Narratively, I understand that. But wouldn't it have been something if you walked in this movie, had this huge thing happen that everybody's freaking out about, and then they just left it?
No, I
You
would have
know?
hated that.
I think that would be the coolest thing.
I love
And,
that
you know,
they
what,
teased
call
it
a
and they
vision.
showed me it, but then they said, no, it's okay. You can still have your happy ending because this is a romance novel after all.
A vision and a dream, that's, interchangeable.
No, they're
the
not.
function of it in the script is the same thing. It's something that doesn't happen in the reality of the story. And to me, and again,
It is the
it's-
reality.
I don't
It's
think
just not that
necessarily-
reality.
I think a vision is implying things to come. A dream is things that don't happen, and I think that they serve different purposes. I recognize that you're arguing over like semantics. Essentially, but I think your dismissal of saying that the same thing is close-minded.
Agreed.
Okay, in this instance, to me, as the person watching the movie, removed, and again, somebody who hasn't read the book, they feel like the same thing, And it feels to me like
But
it's
how
a
do you
dream.
take the vision of somebody who has foresight to be the same as a dream?
Well, you know what you do is you show it to me in spurts, and you don't take as long as they take to do it, because now I'm committed to this being the end of the movie.
The scene was like 4 minutes long. What are you talking about? Like as long
It
as it
felt
takes.
very long,
But it's
to
not.
me.
It's literally like 4 minutes.
But that the viewer experience, though, for me, is that this is the end of the movie, and figure out a way that it doesn't drag. Then, because it
How was
would've
it dragging? It was an action scene. If anything, I thought it was very fast paced and very well done.
But you
Yeah, I don't think it dragged.
you undo a lot of that for me when you say, all right, that's not what happened.
it's not that it's not what happened. It's what could have happened.
But I understand that. I'm just saying, when I watch it as the viewer sitting here who hasn't read Twilight and doesn't have this attachment, which is what we went into this talking about, it doesn't work as well for me, because it is fan service to the Twilight community, which is fine because that's what the movies are for, to show you, okay, maybe this happens. But to me, it's like you're presenting this to me as the end of the movie, and then you do a bait and switch, and that's the same as when people had an issue with Batman dying at the end of Dark Knight Rises, but then not really dying. It's like you can't have two endings that are so opposite and get me emotionally invested in both. And to do it, I think you have to have a stronger foundation than what this movie had for me.
Can we take a minute, because we watched an entire series for this podcast, give a series vibe as well as movie vibes?
I mean,
and name which one we think is our favorite of the series?
yes, and I also just want to just circle back. Aside from the battle and what happens and the ending, and I kind of agree with you, Jeremy, because it does kind of leave it off a little bit like cliffhanger-esque, that like it's like, okay, we're cool, like I'm just gonna go now, we'll see you later, because I do feel like they left it open-ended to kind of have a potential for maybe somewhere down the line, even if it's not Bella and Edward's story, but the Volturi would be back, and they would have to deal with them at some point in time, and yada yada yada. But there is an actual ending to the movie after that, so I'm curious what you think about that.
What are you referring to?
To be honest, I don't actually remember what happened.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So after the battle ends and Arrow and the rest of the Volturi walk away, Renesmee grows up, and they end the movie kind of there. And I was just curious how we felt about that.
She just grows up. Did we see anything? Frankly, I
Bella
do
and
not
Edward,
remember.
Bella and Edward are talking in the meadow as they do in all of the movies.
Okay.
And they talk to the other like half vampire, half human, and find out that like he stopped aging when he turned 18 or 21
African
or something.
guy.
Yeah. And how he's 150 years old and healthy as a horse and, all this stuff. So they basically find out that Renesmee, although is not immortal, will live for a very long time. And the actual same thing is the same for Jacob as well. Being a werewolf, he is not immortal, but he will live for a very long time. So that, like, kind of like one big happy family thing all kind of happens, and they all run off into the sunset together. Renesmee is like an adult. What?
They're perfect for each other.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with any of that. I like that.
I didn't say that you did. I just wanted to talk about it.
No,
that is
like
the actual
fully...
end of the movie.
Right.
There is a part of the end of the movie that I do remember that you didn't just mention, which is that Bella takes down her shield so that Edward can
read her mind.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. I think that actually is kind of that. I like
don't know
that.
if I remember that.
That was kind of a nice.
Well, the
little,
whole thing is that
vulnerability thing.
The reason Edward likes Bella to begin with is because he can't hear her mind, so he's very intrigued by her.
Right.
And that ends up being
really
her
wants
power.
to fucking
yes,
devour
yes,
her.
I remember this.
That ends up being her power, is that she's a shield. She can protect. That
was a nice payout, actually.
Right. So she ends up learning how to reverse shield, so that Edward can read her mind.
I don't have anything to say about the Renesmee thing. It fully does not. I guess there's so much before that takes the attention away. I fully do not remember Renesmee as a grown up. It does not register to me. You just told me about. I remember
we
the
watched
thing.
it a long time ago, so I'm not gonna fault the movie for that. I'll just say I don't remember it, but.
I remember the thing where they're talking about
that
he's 100, that the guy's 150 and he stopped aging and whatever. I fully do not remember her growing up, and there's just a lot of things there that take up a lot of the attention that I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, it was like a 15-second scene, so it wasn't.
Okay.
And something that all book to movie does suffer from that, because Brittany's gonna remember it better because she read through this whole thing happening on paper, and we don't remember it as well because
and I believe
we didn't have that.
One of like the last lines of the book is something and they play it on the screen like as a page, like in the book, is something like, and they lived for very long happy lives together or something to that effect.
That's nice.
Yeah. And then at the end of the movie, which actually makes me very emotional, is they play 1,000 Years by Christina Perri, which is like the kind of song that kind of goes through the last movie, and they give you every character from all of the movies. They kind of like recap all of them, and I really enjoyed that because I like it. Like Avengers obviously did that too. I like when they do stuff like that and they kind of give credit to everybody that's been a part of it. Yeah.
Do you know where that started? Just a film fact. Do you know where that trend originally started? No. Star Trek: The Motion Picture had the original cast of the first series. And at the end of the movie, the curtain call, it was called, they brought out everybody who had ever been on the show, and they got a little signature from them, and that's where that comes from, where franchise movies do that and attribute it back to Star Trek, the motion picture, which I actually think is kind of really nice, because you have something that's a legacy that's been around forever, and here's one big monumentous thing that happened from it, and all these people that loved it and came out for it now get this one little like service of like, hey, here's this character I like, and here's this character I like. I love when things do that, you know.
Yeah, I think if I were a bigger fan of Twilight, this would have like meant something to
It
me.
actually
But
makes me like really emotional when I watch that. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just one of those things that like I can watch it and I'll put it on, and like by the end they're playing 1,000 years and showing like all the characters, and I'm just sobbing because I don't know, it just like is very impactful to me. So Jeremy, back to your point. I just wanted to make the point about the ending, but back to your point, vibe check and which is our favorite. Do you
yeah, I
wanna-
just think that I think that'd be
why
fun.
don't you get it started so that we kind of have an idea of what you're looking for?
I get a vibe check on the whole series. I just don't think it's a series I'm gonna revisit a lot.
I'm glad you got through it once though. That makes me happy.
I think its strongest parts are its bookends in a sense. I think the first one and the last one are the strongest ones. I don't know if I would ever really want to. And we talked about this. Like, I think the second one I thought was kind of useless. I didn't like it all. The third one.
Eclipse.
What happened in that one? Again?
That's the one with
go
Victoria, and they go up the mountain, and like she's freezing, and then they have the
Okay.
whole love triangle. He kisses her, she punches him in the face. breaks
Oh,
her
I like
hand,
that one.
That whole thing, yeah.
I didn't care for the third one. I think it got really like
I
I was
really like
all
Eclipse,
for
too.
Jacob, and it like ruined the Jacob ship for me. And I also didn't think that the conclusion was one that I cared for this type of story. It didn't do a lot for me. I said Breaking Dawn Part 1 I didn't like either. So and Breaking Dawn Part 2 I do like. I think I do like, other than the Jacob thing. I do kind of like Breaking Dawn Part 2. Yeah. I probably put the first one as my favorite. I say I like Breaking Dawn Part 2, and I think the thing that it falls the shortest on is that the Jacob thing, and it falls shortest in that a big fight is not what I want out of a series like this. I liked it because I like that kind of stuff, but it's a conclusion that feels hollow because it's not. It's just not where this type of thing should go.
Right.
And I like the first one. It feels very aware that some of the things are kind of dumb, and we're just trying to have fun and we're trying to have a good time. And I like that about the first one.
You know, I can get down with a lot of these, and I know that I've pointed out a lot of flaws, but that's what the show is. We're reviewing them. I had fun watching them with you, you know, and I would do that again if you wanted to. I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would, but they're not my favorite things, and I have issues with them just as, you know, standalone story things that I don't particularly care for. But I will say the first one was a lot of fun, and I would place that at the top. I also really liked Eclipse. I thought that it raised the stakes in a nice way that I felt fulfilled at the end of that movie, you know. And so it's a real mixed bag because I didn't really care for Breaking Dawn. Not Breaking Dawn. What's the second one?
New Moon.
New Moon. I really hated New Moon quite
Everybody
a bit.
does.
Yeah, that was some dog shit. But Eclipse I thought was quite good. Breaking Dawn Part 1, not my favorite. Breaking Dawn Part 2, I like more than I dislike. So
I think I did say before we started watching these that like every other movie is good. It's like the two like middle ones that you're kind of just like, eh.
I would
I
say
actually
the first one's still the one to beat. That was the best of the bunch. And you know, mixed bag for me, but not the shit train that people say that it is, and I don't think it's fair to say that.
Just to amend, I will agree. It is not as bad as I think the entire world gives it credit for. And there are things in here that are problematic.
And if you came to me and said you didn't like them, I understand that. And if you came to me and said I love them, I understand that too.
But I think it wasn't worth being the butt of every joke. I don't think the joke of like still a better love story than Twilight,
And
I
the
don't think it was
worst-
really worth that.
The worst offense of them is that they're kind of forgettable. Like that's And how many movies are there that are like forgettable to people that are not invested, you know? And if that's the worst thing I can say about it, it's like I've seen movies 1,000 times worse than anything in this pantheon of this saga, if
Right.
you will. You know, I would throw fucking the last Star Wars out there. That dog shit was way worse than anything that's in here.
Hell yeah. I would watch the Twilight. I mean, I'm in a different position, but I think you guys would watch the Twilight movies in a heartbeat over watching
Fucking the Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of
Fuck
Skywalker.
yeah. And no, and just thinking about it's like, you know, you're talking about things with obsessive fan bases, you
I
know.
would watch the Rise of Skywalker first because
It's shorter.
No, well, I mean, all right, fine. It's one movie versus a whole series, but
I mean, the first Twilight then versus Rise of Skywalker.
I think that's Rise of Skywalker is a mess in a way that I can get down with and enjoy in an ironic way.
Okay.
Easier than Twilight. Like, I do like the first one, as I said. I think it is the strongest one, but there's a I think I just get a kick out of shitting on Star Wars these days. It's such a shame. It comes down to that.
Man, I miss Star Wars.
Okay. So obviously this was my suggestion. These movies were my suggestion for the months that we've been doing book club. So I obviously have a very special place in my heart for Twilight. I also feel like generationally, like we are not in the same generation. I'm a millennial. You guys are Gen Z? Yeah, Gen Zers.
I don't think generations aren't real. They're stupid. It doesn't matter.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying more in like the terms of what I grew up and like when I was able to start like going to see movies that I just wanted to see and read books that I wanted to read. I used to hate reading when I was like all the way up through high school. I never wanted to read. It felt like a waste of time to me. Twilight was actually one of the first series that I actually picked up and read the entire thing. So to read hundreds of pages of a story for me as like an 18 to 20-year-old girl, woman, whatever, that meant a lot to me. You know, they weren't the best thing. They weren't the most well-written books and they weren't the greatest stories ever told. But for my generation of women, for the most part, you know, and my generation of moviegoers and book readers and, you know, things like that, these movies and these books will always have a very, very special place in my heart. You know, I feel the same way about Harry Potter, and you feel that way about Harry Potter. I believe you're a big enough Harry Potter fan as well. You know, I feel that way about Harry Potter myself, but I also feel that way about these books because it's just it was a similar time in books, similar times in theater. You know, they were coming out at the same time. Literally, the movies were coming out at the same time, like in the same realm of movie going. And are they the best movies that have ever been written? Are they the best books that have ever been written? No. But that doesn't mean I don't like them for those reasons. So Twilight's up there for me. And then I even just think about like some of my friends, like I know Justine loves Twilight just as much as I do. We made you guys watch it when we were in Arizona. Erica loves it. Sam and Tony, their song to their wedding, because they both love Twilight. Tony, a 26-year-old, you know, buff, working out, good-looking man, loves Twilight. Married to an absolutely bombshell, gorgeous woman. And they both love Twilight so much so that their wedding song was 1,000 Years by Christina Perri. And I just feel like for us and for those people, like, you know, us now, you know, 25 to 30-something-year-olds, it just meant something more. So the vibe for me is overall positive. Favorites, I obviously the first one is very good. But in terms of which ones I'd, like if you said, oh, you want to watch one, which one do you want to put on? I would probably say Eclipse, or I would say one of the Breaking Dawns, if not both of them. And I understand why you guys don't like Breaking Dawn 1 as much, but I always kind of like just think of them collectively as like one unit. So I would just say like I'd want to watch both of them together. And that is all I have to say about Twilight. I will not bring it up again. And I promise I have other movies to recommend going forward.
All right. Well,
we can cut
let's
the
do a
tension
quick.
in here with a knife.
let's do a quick. Let's be quick about this. We
Sure.
talked for a really long time.
I know. I'm sorry.
And I
Hour
mean
and a
that's
half.
everyone's fault.
Just on the Twilight.
I know. So
We're
let's
gonna have to split this one up in two, but that's okay.
let's try to be quick about this. Next recommendation, we were kind of getting a Christmassy vibe for the next episode of this. So let's go through our recommendations really quick. I'm going to recommend another Netflix original. Klaus came out last year.
Another animated.
Big fan. Another animated. Someday I'll move on. Brittany.
I am going to recommend a movie that I am almost positive neither of you have seen. It is a Christmas movie, but it is not one of the well-known Christmas movies. It's not a Santa Claus. It's not The Grinch. It's not, Christmas Vacation. It is a movie I've been wanting Oliver to watch forever, so I'm so glad that I can recommend it, and now we're going to do it. I want you guys to see Jack Frost.
Okay.
And that is Michael Keaton, so you have a reason to enjoy it.
Oliver.
I've actually seen Jack Frost years. I don't remember it at all. I saw it when I was like 5.
Let's try to be quick about this.
All right, you know what? I won't do that. The one I had in mind doesn't really work, so we're gonna go. I want to watch Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think that's a
Okay.
fun Christmas movie that Jeremy hasn't seen, and a good time. Very
I haven't seen
pessimistic
the whole
Christmas.
movie in years either, so all right.
All right. Well, we've been talking for a really long time, so I just want to move on.
Sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
Everybody did
I'm
it.
sorry, Twilight. There was a Twilight takeover.
Everybody. I mean, it was 2 movies, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the end of a series in which we watched all the movies, 5 movies altogether. It warranted some time, some breakdown.
There's no one person to blame. We all talked for a long time. Anyway,
We just like to talk.
good riddance to you.
Reading Steel.
Good riddance to you.